Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Yankees lose 2 out of 3 to the Houston Astros at home, heading into a very critical 4-game set against the Boston Red Sox to finish out the homestand. And the Yankees haven't lost that many series lately. This one is reminiscent to one of the few they did lose, which was out of the trade deadline, early August, home against the Cardinals, which is also... You had a crazy game 1 where they lost and Luis García Jr. had some theatrics that, should have led to a win but didn't. Bullpen implodes. They win game 2 and then you lose the rubber match in game 3. So, look, the Astros are a team. They may very well make the playoffs in a weak American League West, and there's even a third wild card spot for grabs. So, crazily enough, there could be 2 teams out of the West that make it. It's not in the realm of possibility. But it's like Yordan Alvarez, game 3, he did essentially nothing, and the Astros still won fairly handily. So game 1 was a very tough loss. One that the Yankees, it was a back and forth game that the bullpen just couldn't seal the deal. Game 2, the Yankees win. They kind of break it open late. We've seen some of those sorts of performances. That one was reminiscent to a win against the Mariners, as another home week day series. But yeah, game 3, 0 for 9 runners scored. We've seen too many of those games where, yes, the offense has been a little bit better, but then there's certain games where they are just completely shut down. So it's tough. And this was a week where the Yankees lost the game on Tampa and Boston. So they went in 3 back, 3 ahead. Now it is 4 behind the Rays and 2 games ahead of the Boston Red Sox. And just to set that up real quick, the Yankees held off the Red Sox ever so closely during the beginning of the Atlanta Braves series, where the Yankees had that sort of miraculous comeback in the first game of the series, where that kept them barely ahead. Here's the situation. The Yankees lose 3 out of 4 to the Red Sox. They will technically be tied, but the Red Sox would be ahead via the tiebreaker. And all it takes is for the Red Sox to split this 4-game set for them to get that tiebreaker. But, we'll save a little bit of that for the end of the episode when we kind of give that preview to what is, a huge series, the last one of the season against the Red Sox. And the Yankees only have themselves to blame for what they did in that 4-game set at Fenway Park that kind of turned the Red Sox season around. And now, where it could have been a Yankees-Rays discussion, the Red Sox are very much in the conversation now. But let's just first discuss some transactions. And these exclusively are bullpen-related moves. Now, coming out of the series against the Blue Jays, they sent down Brendan Beck. So we didn't even see him. He warmed up but didn't come in. So Brendan Beck was there as kind of insurance while Ryan Weathers was placed on the IL. By the way, on the IL. And news on Ryan Weathers, and I can't remember if I had said this. I may have. I probably did, actually, where, it turns out that there's hope that he could return by season's end. So we'll see where that goes. And Justin Topa is called up to the Yankees. He's a guy that was on the Twins this year, I believe it was, and didn't have a whole lot of success. He actually did appear in game 3. He was on when there was an unearned run. Kind of felt like a Bradley Hanner type performance, but a little bit better than that. Speaking of Hanner, he was set down in a series of moves before game 2. So Fernando Cruz, who we'll talk about, right elbow discomfort. He pitched game 1, did not pitch well. And unfortunately for him, he has a partial UCL tear. So surgery is on the table, which would take him out for not only the rest of this season, but probably all of next season. But he is getting a second opinion. It's not totally done, but chances are not looking great for Fernando Cruz. That's another reason why it was crazy they didn't try to acquire a reliever at the deadline. Just because, these things happen. Fernando Cruz was being used a lot. Him and Hendrick specifically when I think about this season. And Cruz's effectiveness really decreased to the point where now, and his post-game presser Tuesday night after game 1, you could tell that he was kind of hinting that he was dealing with something. And so he goes to the IL, and his season may very well be over. We will update that as we find out what the second opinion is. And Bradley Hanner was optioned as well to AAA Scranton. And so they called up Elmer Rodríguez, who made a very nice outing, a no decision in game 2. And then Michael Fulmer. That one kind of came out of nowhere. Fulmer, the former Tiger starter who won the Rookie of the Year in 2016 over Gary Sanchez. He was in the San Francisco Giants system this season. Then he was most recently with the Angels with the big club. Made like 3 appearances, pitched well, and the Yankees, not only do they bring him on board, but to a major league contract with the Yankees. So it's a bit of a random bullpen, right? When you think about the likes of Fulmer, Justin Topa. And look, Justin Topa, for all we know, maybe he got sent down heading into the Red Sox series because they're going to need as many reinforcements out of that bullpen as possible, especially with the doubleheader. So a lot of transactions, look, some bigger than others, but, kind of the bullpen, I think, is going to be ever-changing and a very fluid situation. And the Michael Fulmers of the world, like, if they pitch well, and he did pitch well in game 2, they're going to have a chance to have a role on this team, like, come postseason time. That's kind of where they're at. It's kind of dire straits. But let's talk best and worst player of the series. And with this, I'm kind of going more off of feel than anything because there really were candidates to be had on both sides of the equation. I guess I would say that the best player of the series was fairly easy in Luis García Jr. I mean, he went absolutely bonkers in the first 2 games. He went 4 for 5 in game 1 with a 2-run homer. He had a double, 3 RBIs, he was 4 for 4 until his last at bat. Game 2, not a whole lot worse. He actually almost hit a grand slam that just went foul in game 2. He went 3 for 5, homered in that game as well. Had a 2-run homer off of Vaniel de Los Santos. So, Luis García Jr., who didn't really do anything in game 3. What he did in games 1 and 2 alone, he deserves it. Honorable mentions as well. Jazz Chisholm Jr. was really good in this series, and he's been kind of turning a corner. Not that I trust it, but he has been better. Cody Bellinger had some pretty big moments too in this series. Ben Rice was pretty good. You had some good offensive performances for sure. Again, shout out Elmer Rodríguez for what he did in game 2. But ultimately, Luis García Jr. is my player of the series. For worst player of the series, George Lombard Jr. And look, Fernando Cruz off the hook again, really due to the injury. I kind of had to soften up a little bit because clearly he is dealing with something. Brent Hedrick, similarly, he was not good in game 1, but he's been so good this season. So I kind of just split the difference on them. Trent Grisham, honestly, was very deserving, truly, in terms of really not doing much at the plate and not doing well defensively at certain points. But it's George Lombard Jr. For the fact that he actually made an error in all 3 games of this series. So make that 6 consecutive games with errors for George Lombard Jr. And he didn't do a whole lot at the plate. He wasn't the worst offensively. He did a little bit, but he was kind of in the mix for worst player of the series against the Blue Jays, but I kind of let that go because some of it was a little bit fluky, and he did do well at the plate, but I can't have that anymore. And that is stuff that can't happen. And it does get concerning. When it is 6 games in a row, then it becomes mental, right? We know he has the talent. He impressed right out of the gate. I like what the kid can bring, again, as far as what he does, the plate discipline and for a young player, it's pretty good. I mean, he did have a 3 strikeout game in game 2, but you can't have that. And I almost wondered if it might have made sense to just give him a breather in this last game against the Astros. They didn't do that. I'm not going to kill him for it, but it did cross my mind. If they did it, I would have said, all right, I kind of get it. But, he is my worst player of the series, and he's going to have to turn it around. And again, a pivotal series against the Red Sox. If you're enjoying New York's #2 sports show, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's keep growing New York's #2 sports show. So, game 1, that was one of the tougher losses of the season. I don't know, top 5 maybe? There were certainly some that were worse, but this was one that, again, 3-2 Yanks, 5-3 Yanks, 6-5 Yanks, and ultimately they lose 9-7. Will Warren, another, at best pedestrian mediocre outing, 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. That sounds like a Will Warren outing, and that's exactly what it was, going 97 pitches in 5 innings. And he's still in the rotation, and he's going to pitch in that Red Sox series, and that's definitely, and we're going to discuss the matchups, and that is a little bit concerning, there's no doubt. For the Astros, it was rookie Ethan Pecco making his second Major League appearance. And ultimately, he didn't pitch very well. 4 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 5 runs, 4 walks, only 1 strikeout. But the Astro bullpen, they did enough of the job. I mean, I guess specifically Josh Hader. Hader was really fantastic. He is still one of the best closers in baseball. He is almost unhittable these days. But, yeah. And apologies if I missed some things. This is a very jam-packed game. But let's go. Look, the Lombard, the thing is this. It's a mix. The Lombard errors, some of them have cost the Yankees, some of them have not. Like the first inning one, ultimately it didn't. It extended the inning, but Lombard made a throwing error. It's been more on the glove. It hasn't really been throwing error. It's been, again, more the lack of, feeling the ball cleanly. But ultimately the Yankees come out of the inning okay. And, another inning where the Yankees don't score in the first inning, just to jump ahead to game 2, they finally do break that streak. A Ben Rice home run would end what was a 23-game streak of not scoring in the first inning, and the franchise record was 24. So they just barely escaped that. But top of the second rolls around, and it is a 2-out home run for Yainer Diaz, his 9th home run of the year. And Diaz had a fantastic game in game 1. And I want to just say this straight out. The 2-out production from the Astros was very annoying. I mean, that was a thing the entire series where it felt like, I want to say at least 90% of the Astro runs with 2 outs. And a lot of them, it was 2 outs, no one on when things happened. It was, that can't happen. And that was, just very clutch by the Astros and not so much for the Yankees. It really stood out in a way I had not seen this season from the Yankees perspective, from a pitching side. So 1-0 Astros. Let's go to the third. And here is a 2-out rally here. Altuve single and a bad pass ball by Austin Wells. Austin Wells had a pretty good game 2, but he, didn't love his series, quite frankly. Game 1 was not good offensively or defensively. Game 3 wasn't very good either, but he did do some decent things in game 2. But Wells with the pass ball, and sure enough, Dalton Varsho, who really killed the Yankees this series, the former Blue Jay, and again, those 2025 Blue Jays find a way to do some things against the Yankees, and Varsho gets an RBI single to make it 2-0 Houston. Bottom of the third, though, Cody Bellinger, 3-run homer, 12th homer of the year. He's the guy you want to run in the scoring position. There's just no doubt about it. And look, he's not always successful. Like, we're going to talk about a time later in this game where he wasn't, and it wasn't like completely his fault, but here, first and third, 1 out, 3-run homer for Cody, his first home run in a long time. In over 2 months. Middle of June, I think he homered at the Blue Jays. It had been a while. Obviously, he was hurt for a month, but 3-2 Yanks at that point. And then let's jump ahead to the top of the 5th, where yet again, it's a 2-out situation, and Dalton Varsho gets a single. For first and third, 2 out to tie it up at 3. But at the bottom of the 5th, the Yankees would respond in the form of Luis García Jr., who at that point had already had 2 hits on the night, make it a third. 27th home run of the season, combined with the Nationals and Yankees, a 2-run shot to give the Yankees a 5-3 lead. And that would be all for Ethan Pecco at that point. And then Fernando Cruz comes on. And it was just frustrating. And look, now we kind of know why. It doesn't 100% take him off the hook. He had been really, really bad, but clearly now there was a legit reason. It wasn't like a phantom IL for Cruz. 2 out, Jeremy Pena, who won the ALCS MVP against the Yankees in 2022, he hits a game-tying 2-run homer off of Cruz. So not only is it walks for Cruz, who walked Diaz with 1 out, it's the home run ball as well. He has been really bad lately. In the moment, I'm thinking he's in the worst player of the series, and somehow he avoided it again. He might have gotten it once, but at most. And he really did deserve it more than that, but that tied it up at 5, and that was big because you felt right there, all right, if you can get through there, and then Yordan Alvarez at least leads off the 7th, not as the tying run, you could find your way home. The sad thing is, for better or for worse, David Bednar never appeared in the series, and that was especially hurt in game 1, where if you could get it to that, not that Bednar is a complete automatic, but pretty damn close, and so it was just tough to not get it there. So it's all tied up. Yuri De Los Santos comes on and pitches a scoreless 7th. It got a little bit dicey in terms of the way it looked, but unscathed. And then at the bottom of the 7th, the Yankees take the lead. And it would be Luis Garcia Jr. off the lefty. Like, they are showing the ability to have some faith with him against lefties. His numbers are not great against lefties, Luis Garcia Jr., but he was having a great game. Like, I was all for it, and it worked out. RBI double for Garcia Jr. gives the Yankees a 6-5 lead. However, they don't tack on. Cody Bellinger grinds out to short to get the out of home, and that was unfortunate. If that goes off the pitcher, Okert, honestly, like, who knows? That could have led to a big inning, but it doesn't work out that way. They bring on the righty, Brian Abreu, and he gets George Lombard Jr. to fly out. So only a 1-run lead, and then Brent Hedrick comes on. Obviously, Hedrick's been fantastic this year. I feel like lately it's been a little bit of a mixed bag, but he allows a home run to Yainer Diaz with 1 out. Like, you were just a couple of outs away from getting it to Bednar, and that's what hurts about this one. Diaz, his 2nd homer of the night. This was to right field, ties it up at 6. Then with 2 out, it looked like Jeremy Pena might have went around swinging. They didn't say he did the first base up. It was 50-50. Like, it could have gone either way. They said he didn't. Then he singles. Then Yordan Alvarez, an RBI triple. And what was frustrating about that is, like, you can't fully pitch around him, but at the same time, you know, like, you really want to pitch carefully. And ultimately, Alvarez, RBI triple. And to make matters worse, Isaac Paredes, RBI single, makes it 8-6. And so now you're really feeling like it's up against you. Bradley Hanner came in to finish the inning. So a rough outing for Hedrick, arguably his roughest outing of the season. I think statistically that probably holds up. And he would end up with the loss here. And it's crazy. He gave up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning and yet still has a 1.88 ERA on the season. But Spencer Jones starts at the 8th, leadoff double. Jazz Chisholm Jr. with an RBI single. So very quickly down by 1. And so what hurts about that is if they had just kept it to a 1-run deficit, it's a tie game potentially. And what bothered me is that Jazz didn't try to steal. And then sure enough, Austin Wells double play. Worst case scenario, where I wish that Jazz was a little more aggressive there. And then Caballero gets a single. So that could have been a big inning. The Wells double play kind of kills it. They bring on Hader to face Trent Grisham. They keep Grisham in lefty versus lefty. You know, you do have the likes of a Paul Goldschmidt, for example, on the bench. But Grisham strikes out. Bradley Hanner, 9th inning. Sure enough, 2-out rally. Cam Smith triple and a Yainer Diaz single gives the Astros 9-7 lead. That's off of Hanner. And then Hader makes easy work of Rice, Garcia Jr., and Bellinger. And the Astros win, final score 9-7. That is a tough loss. We find out that Cruz is IL bound and potentially a lot worse. We go to game 2. Elmer Rodríguez. I think for me, this is probably his most impressive outing in the big leagues. 6 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Really, even that line was misleading, quite honestly. It really was better than that. And so at this point, expect him to probably get another go, I would say, in the Angels series. I think he probably lines up to stay there, would be my guess. And hey, with how crazy things are bullpen-wise, not that I think he necessarily translates to the bullpen. I don't. Like, anything's up for grabs. This bullpen is going to be comprised of a lot of starters that are either coming off of injury, like a Clark Schmidt and a Luis Heel, or like Ryan Weathers, or just guys that simply didn't really make the rotation, like a Will Warren, maybe even Elmer. So we'll see. For the Astros, it was Peter Lambert. He was okay. He kept the Astros in it. 5 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts for him in the no decision. The Astros take the early lead, and again, 2-out rally, a walk for Paredes, and an RBI double for Ozzie Altuve on a play that Trent Grisham absolutely needs to make. Like, honestly, they should rule this an error, in my opinion. Goes off his glove, but it would be, just Grisham was caught flat-footed, takes a bad angle, and he is just not good going back on the ball. Coming in, he's okay, but I don't trust Trent Grisham as my center fielder. I just don't. And unfortunately, I think as long as he's healthy, he's going to be out there every night, like in big spots. Sure, he might get the odd day off in the regular season, but come playoff time, I think he's just out there. They have never played him at the corner outfield position, so it's like, it's not great. It isn't. So 1-0 Astros there, but then Ben Rice ties it up with that first inning homer, 35th homer of the year, makes it 1-1. Ultimately, an Astro error leads to a George Lombard Jr. RBI ground out, 2-1 Yanks. Elmer's doing a nice job. Again, some missed opportunities by the Yankees. I won't go too deep into it because the Yankees did win this game, so we're not going to go. I mean, there was a failed bunt by Caballero in the 2nd inning, but ultimately, they end up winning the game. Top of the 4th, a 2-out homer for Dalton Varsho. Again, a lot of 2-outs going on, just infuriating stuff. Varsho, it ties it up at 2. Yankees do respond to the bottom of the 4th with a run on a double play by Trent Grisham. Basically, no out. Like, not the result, not the play you're looking for there, but it did give Yankees the lead. And then, let's see here. Some more missed opportunities, but 7th inning, Elmer Rodríguez starts the 7th, really out of necessity, right? Remember, Hedrick's unavailable. And, you're not, Paul Blackburn's available, but really only for 1 inning. So you didn't have a whole lot to work with. He walks Altuve to start the inning. You don't want to do that, but, again, Rodríguez shouldn't have even been in there in the first place, really. And then Paul Blackburn gives up a double to Dalton Varsho, and then you have an error by George Lombard Jr. on a ground ball by Christian Walker. Now, the run was going to score anyway, right? Ultimately, his error didn't cost them runs, but it could have been a disaster. But luckily, Paul Blackburn does a great job. On a Taylor Trammell grounder to the mound, he fields it and gets Varsho out with no rundown. So, no runs scored, first and second one out. He does walk Lombard Jr., but then he strikes out Vasquez and Pena. Big spot for Blackburn. They're going to need him big time, and he's able to get out of it. Then the Yankees put up a really good bottom of the 7th. And it was against the lefty Bennett Sousa, and it was a 2-run double by Cody Bellinger. That was the big hit, makes it 5-3. RBI single Spencer Jones, RBI double Jazz Chisholm Jr. So good stuff, lefty versus lefty. Makes it 7-3. Michael Fulmer makes his Yankee debut. And who does he face first batter? Yordan Alvarez, and he strikes him out. So Fulmer, I'm curious to see what he can bring, right? Like, he intrigues me more than like a Justin Topa, for example. So Fulmer holds it at 7-3. 2-run homer Luis Garcia Jr. His 28th homer of the year makes it 9-3 in the 8th. And then you have Tim Hill pitching a 1-2-3 9th inning. Yankees win 9-3, and then that sets us up for the rubber match, which on paper looked good. Gerrit Cole against former Yankee prospect Hayden Wesneski. Yankees traded him to the Cubs for Scott Effross back in 2022, and Wesneski has carved out a decent career for himself in the majors. And Cole, he pitched pretty well, but the final line ends up not being all that amazing. He loses to go to 7-7, which is a misleading record, but still. For me, what's most frustrating with Cole is this season, where he's not wasting pitches. 0-2 pitches have been too good. And that bit him here as well when the Astros took the lead. And then in a different way, he had 0-2 Varsho and he walked him. So again, Cole has done a great job of strike throwing, getting ahead in the counts, a lot of good things there. But yeah, 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts for Cole. Wesneski picks up the win. He's 4-1 on the season. 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts for him. And just missed opportunities for the Yankees. They go 0-for-9 runners in scoring position. That was obviously bad. But in the top of the 3rd, a 1-out hit by pitch to Jeremy Pena. And with a 2-out, Isaac Paredes RBI single. Pena was running on the play. And because of that, he scored. It was the perfect storm for the Astros. And not a good pitch by Cole against Paredes on 0-2. Houston takes a 1-0 lead. You had a couple of situations where Jazz reached to lead off an inning, and then Wells, Caballero, and Grisham don't get the job done. But really, to me, specifically, Wells and Grisham. Bottom of the 4th, 2 on, 1 out. George Lombard Jr. strikes out looking. He honestly should have challenged, because there was 2 pitches that were called strikes that were balls, and then Spencer Jones strikes out to end the inning. Bottom of the 5th, it ends up where Jazz lead off walk, steals second, but Wells strikes out. Caballero flies out, which could have been a sac fly if Wells had a productive out, and then Grisham strikes out. Top of the 6th, Varsho. It looks like Cole was cruising. Pitch count was at a great place, and then he walks Varsho on an 0-2 count, and then Christian Walker hits one opposite field, 2-run shot, 24th homer of the year, makes it 3-0 Astros, and that was a gut punch. And Cole, ultimately, he would only go 6 innings. Only 79 pitches. I was a little bit surprised they took him out, given the fact that I know they were losing, but given that you have, your next off day is next Thursday, and you have a 4-game set, including a doubleheader with the Red Sox. I was a little surprised that Cole didn't start the 7th. Ultimately, the Yankee offense didn't do anything, so I guess it didn't matter. But bottom of the 6th, Yankees get their 1 run, and it was on a Ben Rice leadoff double. They bring on the lefty Okert. Luis Garcia Jr. hits one to the track. Rice goes to 3rd, and then Bellinger with a sac fly makes it 3-1. George Lombard Jr. triples, but then Spencer Jones popped out. So not a great game for Spencer Jones. And honestly, not a great series for Spencer Jones, too, if we're being honest. I gave him player of the series last series with the Blue Jays. This one, not as good. Yuri De Los Santos, who I'm not the biggest fan of. Like you can do worse than De Los Santos, but I think that his numbers are misleading. He allows a home run to Jeremy Pena. 16th homer of the year, 4-1 Astros in the 7th inning. Justin Topa comes out of the 8th, and that is where you get the double error by George Lombard Jr. and Caballero. And what do you know? 2-out double for Christian Walker. And then on a Yainar Diaz ground ball to Lombard, he boots it. And then for some reason, Caballero just inexplicably throws it in a hurry. He should have eaten that ball and never even considered throwing it. He airmails it, and so Walker scores, and it's an E6 and E5. Topa didn't deserve that on his ledger, but it makes it 5-1. Topa would pitch a scoreless ninth. Got a little bit interesting, but he got out of it. And then Josh Hader does the job in the 9th. 1-2-3 inning. Astros win the series. They win this game by final score 5-1. So now let's talk Yankees Red Sox. And I laid it out before. Like, if the Yankees win 3 out of 4, that's big in many ways. Now, I don't think that they will. They could. But if they win 3 out of 4, it means they win the season series. So not only do you gain 2 games in the Red Sox, but you win the season series, which is important in a situation where there could be a tiebreaker. If they split, the Yankees hold the 2-game lead, but the Red Sox, they win the season series. So it's tough. The Red Sox winning those 4 games was so crucial. And then, of course, if the Red Sox win 3 out of 4, like I said before, they would technically, via tie, pass the Yankees. So much on the line here. Really would be taking aside 4-game sweeps, which we saw can happen. But just taking that aside for a second, especially with a doubleheader, it's a bit unlikely. 3 out of 4, I'd be ecstatic with. A split stings a bit. I think it's very simplistic. I think, I think a split, I think the Red Sox, even though the Red Sox have the team trailing, I think they're more okay with a split being on the road, winning the season series. I think a split would sting, everything being equal, would sting the Yankees a little bit more, in my opinion. And of course, 3 out of 4 on either side would be gigantic. So the first game of the series, I think, is paramount for the Yankees to win. And look, they had Schlittler on the first game of that Fenway series and lost. I think that was against Connolly early before he got traded. This is against Patrick Sandoval. This is by far the best matchup on paper for the Yankees. So if they lose it, that could be big-time problems. And then game 2, Game 1 will be Jake Bennett, who has struggled lately. He pitched well against the Yankees at Fenway, but he has kind of taken a little bit of a nosedive, but he's, had a very solid season overall. And it'll either be against Carlos Rodon or Max Fried. Those are going to be your starters. So Fried is returning pretty quickly, and that's good news. But for both of them, Rodon's pitch count is increasing, but he's not at a full capacity yet, and Fried, I imagine, as well won't be. So, you need length from Schlittler in game 1. Again, it's going to be some combo of Fried and Rodon in 1 and 2. And I think the Red Sox are going with maybe some form of a bullpen game in the nightcap. Peyton Tolley will not go in the series. They could have gone Suarez. I believe they could have gone Suarez on Saturday, Tolley on Sunday, or some combination of that, I guess. One of the two. Maybe Tolley, then Suarez, maybe. Either way. It doesn't matter the order. But I don't think the Yankees should face Tolley. But game 4, this to me is the worst one. Ranger Suarez versus Will Warren. So it kind of gets worse and worse for the Yankees as the series goes on paper. Another thing to keep note of, where the Yankees were facing so many right-handed pitchers, now it's like all lefties. Like the Yankees aren't facing Sonny Gray. The Red Sox aren't facing Garrett Cole, which might be a good thing for the Yankees because Cole's had his struggles against Boston. But this is where you're going to see more of the Paul Goldschmidts, the Elliot Ramoses, the Ahmed Rosarios, like Ali Sanchez even. And it's going to be interesting to see how that's maneuvered. I don't love that from a Yankee perspective, to be honest with you. I do like the lineup that we've seen lately more so, right? Where you're having, Jazz against righties. And, I know Spencer Jones has been better against lefties, but, Spencer Jones and Luis Garcia Jr. is way better against righties. Trent Grisham, you'd think would be better against righties, but he's been kind of neutral. But the point is, I'm curious to see this, but not necessarily in a good way. So, a massive 4-game set coming up against the Red Sox at Yankee Stadium, and it comes on the heels of a tough series loss to the Houston Astros. They lose 2 out of 3. Now Yanks are 3-3 on this homestand, 4 to go with Placing in this AL East very much on the line. And if the Yankees want to have aspirations to catch the Rays, they're going to have to do well in the series against the Red Sox. And this series right here might just determine who is home and who is on the road at a bare minimum in the wild card round. Is it going to be Yankee Stadium? Is it going to be at Fenway Park, assuming the Rays do hold on to the division? And so this will be a very intriguing series. The Yankees are going to have to find a way to avenge what was an ugly 4-game sweep at Fenway Park. We have another 4-game set in our hands this weekend at Yankee Stadium. Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees.